we're just, so we've been kind of going through, and there's a, but what we figured we were gonna do is just go through the whole package. And then maybe Teresa has, I don't know if there's an extra,
Do
whatever.
you have an extra copy of this one?
You sure?
Yep, because I've
So
got this
so
one.
that's a
in
red
the-
line copy of some of the changes we've made. So what we did is go through most of it, try and change some of the grammatical stuff, and then now we're gonna start going through and trying to eliminate stuff that's redundant or,
There's a lot of redundancies in them, and it makes it like an 80-page document when it should probably only be like a 20-page.
and what they did back in,
I mean, it literally says the same thing in like 8 different places, so.
yeah, if you go back, well, like the last, I'm trying to see, I guess they say they adopted, but there's like 30 pages in the back that they just added the pages.
I have a copy from 2015, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one we're working.
But the last like 30 pages is when they adjusted it, but they didn't go through and amend any of the stuff or change it, or they just threw a bunch of pages in the back. A lot of it
So
doesn't
that, so there's a
necessarily-
lot of like redundancies.
Yeah, it's probably, they probably haven't been revised since before 2008.
Right.
Ah, no way.
Oh,
I think when I came in 2008.
How was Myrtle?
they
You have any
just
son?
maybe
just a little
revised
bit.
some bylaws, older ones.
Otherwise,
So
it was
went from
raining every
2008
day.
to 2015.
Right, but all they did was just tack on to that, so it was, yeah, it was.
And then from 2015 to now, they've never.
Never touched
Is that all bylaws?
Yeah.
Were you- Were you in Myrtle Beach for that storm?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, if you watch the Weather Channel, it was like everything was getting flooded. That wasn't the case,
Yeah.
at least where we were. It was raining every day,
Yeah.
you know?
The Morrisseys were supposed to go down there, they canceled their trip.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you didn't get any beach time or anything like that, but it was,
Well, you had kids.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you could keep yourself very busy doing adult stuff.
Yeah, you could. Trying to entertain
Bars and
kids a little
restaurants
different,
and
you know?
music shows.
Yeah. But it is what it is.
All right, so we got 1 hour. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 5:03. We do have a quorum. Chris Cormier is sitting in for Jill. And John, if you could just, for Chris, explain to him basically what the purposes of bylaws are. That's kind of been what's been driving our discussions, is what should be in bylaws. A lot of this isn't necessarily bylaws, so.
Bylaws are supposed to be designed to, organize the operation of the body, okay? So bylaws should talk about things like how officers are elected, how, rules in regarding, conducting meetings, what goes on the agenda, who has the responsibility for setting the agenda, things like that, things that are geared to the operation of the Board of Education. Separate, apart from bylaws, you have things like policies and administrative regulations, which are just what they sound like. They don't conduct the operation of the board per se, but they do impact the operation of the school system as a whole, okay? So what we've been trying to do is to go through the bylaws and kind of streamline them, kind of eliminate things that don't necessarily have to be there, and to make them through bylaws. You know, for example, I went through a lot of this stuff today. There are a lot of sections that basically quote the Freedom of Information statutes. Parts of them, not all of them, but parts of them, which, you know, you may want to eliminate with a broad reference that everything will be conducted in accordance with the Connecticut General Statute, sections 1-200 to 1-230 or whatever it is, which is a Freedom of Information statute. Other things you may want to leave in there because they're not specifically referenced in the Freedom of Information statute. But it's things like that you may want to clean up too.
So that's kind of how we've gotten to, you know, start the process. So I had taken, and gone through and made a bunch of notes. I know Kristen, you had too, John, I'm sure you did, but,
Yeah.
so, based on that, I mean, so the entire section one, purpose. You know, I had it written, eliminate that whole section. It doesn't necessarily talk about how we run the organization. Just in my opinion, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are.
It's more of a goal, and according to the bylaw, or according to policy, we are supposed to set goals annually, so that's more of, I think that's more of a policy than it is how to operate. You know, obviously our goal is to, you know, we have these goals, but it's not about, that doesn't state anything about how we're gonna operate.
Right. So then, you have any thoughts on that, Chris?
I mean, I think it looks like almost like a mission statement, which is some kind of like why are we here? So having it as it doesn't sound like it needs to be readdressed throughout the document, but as one or two sentences right at the beginning, having a mission of the organization in general is improving the education for our kids, providing safety and advocate for their best interests. It's a clean mission for us.
But does it need to be in bylaws?
I think it's as a lead off to, just off the top of my head, as a lead off to why this document even exists and why what each of these instructions for us, basically with bylaws, or instructions for us, what each of these is supporting throughout the rest of which should be 40 pages, you said, is that over 90? So
It should be 15 pages. I mean, I'm not opposed to leaving it or taking it. I don't know what you know.
I'm not opposed to leaving it. I think, I'm just looking through my notes. I think some of that language is, again, taken directly from the statute, section 10 of the Connecticut General Statutes, which talk about duties of Board of Education, what the board has to do, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure all of it does.
Yeah.
I have no objection to leaving it as Chris says, as a kind of an introductory statement.
So what I did write, so the second sentence, board members must work effectively together. I just wrote with the entire community to successfully reach the goal, instead of work with others in the community.
Which section are you on?
It's the purpose,
That's
number one.
Oh, okay,
Second
okay.
sentence. But they should work effectively with the entire community to successfully reach this goal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I just, with others, kind of, maybe some others, maybe some not others, you know, say the entire community. I think kind of makes it clear that we're.
Yeah.
With the entire people, yeah, that's fine.
All right, so then can we get a motion just to change that, with others in the community to the entire community?
Yeah, I'll move to,
Motion by Mr. Flores.
to take the second sentence of section 1, purpose, and revise it to read that board members must work effectively together with the entire community.
Effectively together and with the entire community.
To successfully reach this point.
So motion,
Second.
second by Mr. Bell. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So the second part, the board shall concern itself only with broad questions of policies as matters determined by the law. The board shall rely upon the superintendent to assist or recommend policies. I had, because we do craft our own policies, and so I removed the sentence, or I thought to remove the sentence, the board shall rely on the superintendent of schools to administer policies enacted by the board, and eliminate to recommend policies.
Eliminate to recommend policies, yeah, because it is the function and the job, I think, of the superintendent to administer the policies that the Board of Education promulgates, okay?
Can we, I'm sorry,
No, so.
can we, to coordinate, not coordinate with, or at least work with us and recommend other policies?
I think we should say something more along the lines of, because the superintendents do come to us and say, you know, we need to update this policy. you
Yeah.
know, and that's fine. The board shall, it should be threefold, I just don't know exactly how to say it. The board shall, you know, do their own policies, however we wanna gracefully say that, because graceful is not in my book right now. And rely, as well as, or in addition to relying on the superintendent to recommend, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so one of the things.
So allowing the superintendents to come to the board to say, we need to review that.
So, because in a lot of these other spots, it talks about how the boards, and that's some of the things that the board's primary function is to set policy,
Yeah.
which it's not, you know, we set budgets and amongst other things, but the board shall, if it may something like the board shall rely upon the superintendent to administer the policies enacted by the board and make recommendations to potential changes or policies.
Yeah. Before you get into it too deeply here, if you look at 9311.
What page is that?
I don't know.
So one of the things we did do too, Chris,
Is
I
add
had-
pages
we
to,
put page numbers at the bottom.
but because it's being revised right now, the page numbers will be off, so.
It was
So
just
that'll be done
easier
at
to
the
get
end of
around.
documents.
Yes.
93.
What do you find, formulations, adoptions, amendments?
That's the one.
Okay, so
I have my-
9311,
my original book.
9311.
Oh, 9311 and 931111. So if you look at 9311, it starts off the same way that, the same language that you have in section 2. But it goes into more detail in 931111,
Mhm.
which says, policy proposals, amendments, et cetera, shall normally be submitted to all members of the board by the superintendent in writing prior to a regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. Policies will, by a majority vote of members present, be adopted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it kind of seems to, this one also would have to be changed because it all seems to rely on the superintendent to propose these
Right.
revisions,
Which
in
is-
these policies.
Which is not the statute or.
Well, it's just not the only way.
Which is
it
fine,
happens.
it's just not the only way
Yeah,
it
it's not the
happens.
only way it
Yeah.
happens.
Right.
So
Can
in
we
the,
revise that where instead of superintendent bringing it directly to the board, it's the superintendent? Now, I've not worked with previous superintendents like you guys have. So I'm going by the interactions I've had with, Heather.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, the idea of her not giving us her full input.
yeah,
So I'm thinking, how would I deal with that as a member of the board, not knowing her place on different things?
So that's,
That's why I'm just letting you guys know. at the
no,
beginning,
I
that's why
agree
I'm
with you.
working on
I
this.
agree with you, and that's why I think that it needs to be put in both ways, and that the board can see a policy that they need to discuss at, you know, at a meeting or whatever, at which the superintendent is there and can, you know, give input, or we would ask for input.
But revisions to our policy.
so on 931111, if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth paragraph. So I wrote it, so I made it in my, so policies and policy amendments may be initiated by the superintendent, board members,
Right.
school personnel, and I changed the word, community members, not citizens.
Yeah.
But community members or policy committee. And then I deleted but generally shall be recommended for the board's consideration by the superintendent. Because it comes out of policy committee, it comes out of, you know, a number of different
Yeah.
places.
Do we need that, but generally be recommended for the board's
Just-
consideration?
No,
No, that's the part that I got rid of.
I think you can
The
delete that.
superintendents had their input.
Yeah,
Correct.
so that
already,
It's listed
as
there,
well as
right.
policy.
That's-
Right.
yeah.
As well as
so that sentence would read only, policy and policy amendments may be initiated by the superintendent, board members, school personnel, or, community members, or the policy committee.
Yeah.
Done, and
Done,
everything else
right
is
there, and you
yeah.
should carry that same language to the other sections that refer to that. You know,
So
section
then
2
maybe we should
policy.
say that, so maybe in that section 2, under 9,000, we should take that.
Take the second sentence is the one that's
take that second sentence out and repeat that
That-
sentence
correct,
there, if we
exactly.
have to repeat it at all,
Exactly,
but.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that second sentence there
So-
should be, motion to
Right.
replace that second sentence in section 2 policy to state policies and policy amendments may be initiated by the superintendent, board members, school personnel, community members, and or the policy committee.
So then, but before we do that, so section 2 talks about policy, and we have this 9311.
Yep,
11, which gets deeper into policy. Should we just eliminate that whole thing, because it's all contained within the 9311?
I would say that's true. You can eliminate, I think you can eliminate that portion of 9311, because you have it in section 2,
Or should we eliminate in 9000, section 2,
either one.
that policy?
I think 9,000 outlines the powers and duties of the board. I think that if we end that section with that sentence that I just proposed, or you proposed, end that section and then say refer to
To do that, yeah.
number.
I was just gonna say, again, 9311.
Yeah, and then we have to work on consolidating 9311 and 931111.
And I have some suggestions on that. So then 9002 would say the board shall concern itself with broad question policies and matters as determined by law. And then do you wanna have that sentence in there, or do you wanna just say?
I do, I think we should have that one sentence in there, policies and policy amendments may be initiated by the superintendent, board member, blah, 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 and then say, refer to
Or-
bylaw number 9311 or 11.11, whatever we're using.
All right, then it goes on, such policies shall be broad enough to indicate action by the superintendent in meeting the problems. Do we want?
That's all referenced already in those, that's why I said just refer to, because this whole 9000A is to outline powers and duties of the Board of Education, not to discuss it in depth. What's behind it is what discusses it in depth. So if we just say refer to,
Right.
then at least it's there as the outline and people know what to refer to.
Because it is referred to in the subsequent section.
Right. So if we use the first sentence that's there under section 2, the second sentence that was proposed,
Mhm.
and then cut out the rest of it and say, refer to bylaw number, whatever it ends up being.
11,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Because I also have the last sentence, that application of such policies to individual problems and jobs is an administrative detail to be performed by the superintendent. It also
It also
says the
states
same
that.
thing on page 5.
Correct.
Yeah.
So-
Under superintendent stuff, right?
Right.
And it says the same thing in 9311, whatever page that's on, and so, yeah, you've got redundancy in numerous places.
And I had made a note to move that whole section to 9311, page 4, 9311.
Mhm.
But do we want to, all right, so what do you want to do with that?
No, I think, as you stated, I think, or as Kristen stated in the motion, I do think that you can leave section 2 with the revised sentence number 2 and delete the third sentence and simply revise it by saying refer to
As
Yeah.
indicated in
section.
9311.
Right,
and
right,
9311.
exactly.
Okay, so go ahead, Kristen, did you make that motion? Do you remember?
So we're gonna move to, I'm gonna move to revise section 2 policy under the powers and duties of the Board of Education, section 9000A, to state the board shall concern itself only with broad questions of policy and matters as determined by law. Policies, second sentence will be policies and policy amendments may be initiated by the superintendent, board members, school personnel, community members, or the policy committee. And then the rest of the section will be stricken,
Mhm.
stricken, and instead will state, refer to bylaw number 9311 or 93.1111, depending on what the numbers end up
Turn out to
being,
be,
turn out to
right.
be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And so, Chris, we did go through all this once, like I said, and so this is now the consolidation piece of it. So then in the next, so duties, I wrote for number one, select, employ, and regularly evaluate an able and qualified superintendent of schools.
Where'd you put that?
It's on
Number,
page one, section
first
3,
one.
duties, right below the policy.
that,
Number one.
Oh, okay. Wait,
So
what?
it says employ, enable, and qualified
Oh.
superintendent of schools. I wrote select, employ, and regularly evaluate an able and qualified superintendent of schools. Because we do more than just employ, we do select, we do evaluate, so.
You do, and as we go through it a little bit more, you may find the evaluation part is also spelled out in further
it is,
detail
yes.
in another
Right.
section.
Yep. So I did that, and then on number two, I wrote create and adopt policies to govern the operation of the school system.
Can I suggest that instead of
And I don't
adding
even,
that, we take that out, because we've already addressed policy above it.
yep, I'm okay with taking that out.
Well, section 3 is gonna get more detailed now. This is a list
So
of our responsibility, our direct.
So yes and no,
Duties.
we've already directly, but my reason for the policy is we've already directly referenced policy. So I think anything,
Policy related.
yeah, policy related should be under that section and referred to, you know what I mean, instead of, well, but it says here, we can, you know, we should create and adopt them, but there is much more to it, which we've already addressed.
Which, it talks about that in the sentence above, policy, which is part of the powers and
Like,
duties of the
it's got
board.
its own section, because that's one of the biggest jobs of the board.
And then number 3, I had a question mark, because any school to be attended by the children within the town arranged, when it so desires the board and adjacent town for instruction of children who can attend schools in adjacent towns more, is that?
That's by state statute.
Okay.
That's where like our interdistrict schools.
Right,
Yeah, and special education.
correct.
And then I crossed out number 6.
Nothing with 4 and 5?
No, because we already made some,
Yeah.
so 5 we changed this or in child attend with state statutes. But to maintain good elementary schools and other educational activities and judgment will serve the, I think that's listed in a bunch of other places as well.
And it's probably statutory also,
And it
What's
kind
that?
of alludes
Number
to
6?
it,
yes.
it kind of alludes to it in the purpose in the top. And 7, 8, we already struck on the next page.
We're not doing anything with 6, right? You want to strike it?
I had strike, but I don't know that we need that.
Number 8.
Number 6.
Number 6,
I'm making him slow down.
and these are just my opinions, so.
So just go back for a minute
That's also, that's also.
to number 6. So Connecticut General Statute 10-220 is entitled Duties of Boards of Education. 10-28. Each local or regional board of education shall maintain good public elementary and secondary schools, implement the educational interests of the state, and provide such other educational activities as in its judgment will best serve the interests of the school district.
That's almost word for word.
Very similar to what's already down there, but it's already statutory. So I guess my point is if you want to eliminate that, you can, simply because it's already statutory. That's already a statutory duty imposed upon local boards of education.
Right, but this is also almost an instruction book for us.
Could be,
So
if
maybe,
you can look at it.
If those are statutory, it would be nice to have statutes that really apply to us conducting our jobs well in one place, instead of me having to look at the 15-page bylaws and then try and look up the right statute, what statutes apply
Yeah.
to me.
The only problem, And I thought of that too, especially in the freedom of information section. It is in a way a textbook. The only problem with the way it's been done here is
It doesn't mirror it exactly.
it doesn't mirror the statute exactly. It addresses
Close out.
certain language in statute, other language is left out for some reason. I don't know who made that decision or why it was
Yeah.
made, but it doesn't give you an accurate reflection of everything that's in the statute.
No one has a note, there's no motion right now, right?
No, that's
So I mean, you're talking about removing it. I'd like to make a motion that we replace part 6 with the statute as it's written, as noted in Connecticut General Statute.
Could do that.
We could, or do we want to have a separate line item that says, as part of our duties, follow dictates as laid out in state statutes, that, 220, whatever. So we're not picking certain pieces of the statute and put them in, but we're making a reference to the statute that says,
I mean, you could, since this section addresses duties, you can make
It
a
does
general.
reference it. It does reference it, this
In
section.
the, at the end.
Yeah.
But since since section 3, specifically references duties, you can have a general introductory, phrase that says that the board will, in its deliberations, will comply with section 2-220 of the Connecticut General Statutes, as the same may be amended, which reflects the required duties of the Board of Education.
But you get why I'm asking the question, because like I've been here 7 or 8 months now, it took me a while, I'm up to speed and I do okay, but it took me a bit to catch up. So having the
I get what you're saying, having it written there
having
somewhere
them
else.
in different places and me having to find them rather than having my responsibilities.
On the flip side of that though, what John is saying is that we're singling, this document singles out pieces of it and doesn't put it all in context. And I mean, not that the state statutes make any sense at all. John, correct me if I'm
Correct.
wrong.
That's correct.
Not that but at least there's one place to reference it, and there's not a word off here or there or whatever. If we just refer to the state statutes, then it's in one place.
Right. So I understand the textbook quality of it, it's just that it's not a complete textbook,
Right.
But then sometimes we are referring to the state statutes, so like number 8.
Right, but that's what I mean. We should take all that stuff out and just refer to the statute once. Because otherwise, you can see in number 6 and number 8, they're not the exact language of the state statute, and it changes the meaning of it.
It can, sure, it can.
And I think, as opposed to having it here and there, and then somebody if we go into, a court of law, they're gonna go by the statute, they're not gonna go by what our bylaws have anything to do with, so.
Or even for duties, do we want to say familiarize yourself, each board member shall familiarize yourself with state statutes?
I mean,
You can-
that's kind of what the Board of Education attorney is for.
Right.
You know?
But we still should familiarize ourselves with, responsibilities.
Yeah, but somebody who doesn't work in the legal world is not gonna understand the language in those state statutes, or maybe not even be able to find them physically in the 30 books long that it is of state statutes. But, so I get what Chris is saying in that, list it out, but if we're gonna list it out in here, it's got to mirror exactly what the state statutes say, which is going to add an entire book to this document, or we can just simply say, refer to
Right.
such and such a document, and I mean,
So maintain good public and elementary and secondary schools and other educational activities as outlined in statute
Yeah, that's
Yeah, we
what,
can do
that's
it that
what I'm suggesting. And even the other phrases in 6 and 7, for example. This policy says, or this bylaw says, maintain and operate the interior of buildings, equipment, and other property used for school purposes. The statute imposes the duty upon the Board of Education for the proper maintenance of facilities in a safe school setting, et cetera, et cetera, et
As
cetera.
outlined in.
So what
In the
if,
statute, it's directly in the statute.
But state,
So-
Duties of.
what
Board
if we
of
say
Education.
instead then, you know, we have number 1, number 2 we're getting rid of, and then number 3 is refer to Connecticut state statute, you know, Connecticut general state statute, whatever, and then A, B, C, D underneath it saying, you know, regarding maintaining good elementary and secondary schools,
Right.
regarding maintaining and operating the interior of the buildings,
Refer to. Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's.
under refer, have an A, B, C, D, you know what I mean?
Tell me
To-
tell me where to go.
Exactly, so
Okay.
under this, you're gonna find this
Like I was
information.
bright enough, I could find something that somebody else might come in and let's shorten the learning curve for the newbies.
but,
Yeah, you know, we can list all that
At
stuff
least
out,
that's
just
give them
under,
a direction.
so 3 and 6 too are kind of redundant in some, they seem to.
but they're
say
both
the same.
listed in that statute too.
Hmm. In it, but the 2 separately?
Yes,
Designate schools to be attended and
Yes.
maintain good elementary. And then even maintain and operate the interior buildings, that's not necessarily,
Well, that was a separate statute you just read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
7.
part of that, that's part of section 10-20.
but we as the
And
Board of
that's
Ed
what?
don't necessarily
220?
maintain, and we fund
Well,
fund for the maintenance and operation of the interior.
you are,
Provide funding for it.
by statute, as a board, you are mandated to provide an appropriate learning environment for all students, which includes, one of the things being
operating the interior.
proper maintenance of facilities.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay, so you're charged with that duty. Yeah, you don't go out and do it yourself, but you
Hence
fund
the
it.
unfunded
but-
mandates list and all that kind of stuff.
But you are charged with that duty.
So then, how do we, all right, so then, how do we want to address 3 and 6?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of them. They're all bits and pieces of that statute.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we need to say, leave number 1, and number 2 is refer to the board.
I
The
mean,
board
so-
shall comply with Connecticut state statutes. You will do the numbers.
All right.
And then underneath that, we can either say just refer to Connecticut general state statutes, or we can say, you know, this is a live document online, we can also make a link to that
Good.
statute.
Very good.
Or we could list out the general areas of that statute underneath it as an A, B, C, D, but again, that could get very lengthy because it's a lengthy statute, so.
And I don't know if we can, so I think number 4 kind of stands on its own.
Yeah,
Also part of
No.
that statute, though.
it's also part of the statute.
Right.
Or not maybe 220, but one of the other educational statutes.
But it's almost like
It's
3,
10-186, I think.
10-186.
3, 5, 6, and 7 are almost saying the same type of thing. So if there's a way we can consolidate those 4.
I think that list, so on the second page of this particular powers and duties of the Board of Education, there are legal references of the Connecticut general statutes.
Correct.
We should move that legal reference into number 2 under section 3 and say, it says section 3 duties, the board shall select, employ, and regularly evaluate, an able and qualified superintendent. Number 2, comply with Connecticut general statutes, all listed out underneath them.
10-220.
and make them
10-220.
live links on the document.
I think that's a decent idea.
And then we can eliminate numbers 2 through,
7?
Well,
2
7,
through,
we already eliminated.
2
it.
through 8, we already eliminated 8, but okay,
Right.
so then we can eliminate 2 through 7, and then those will cover that, and then 9 through 14 is another.
There's another issue.
And then 11, we already eliminated.
Right,
And then
but
I had.
let's go to number 2 and agree on that first.
Okay. So,
So was that a motion?
That was a motion.
I will second.
any discussion?
I feel like we're cutting too much explanation out of our document.
It's all referred
I know,
to in
I know.
further sections too, so,
Yeah, and again, the problem that I have with it, I don't think you're wrong. It's nice that you have something in front of you that serves as a textbook or an explanation. However, when it differs from your duties under the statute, it's the statute that controls.
right.
So it can be confusing. You think that you're doing something following your bylaw, but the statute may go further than your bylaw. So to do that may cause undue confusion. That's why I like Kristen's idea that if you refer, do the reference as she has set forth in her motion to the statute, and then you provide a link
Yeah,
on the website where you can actually see these statutes.
and then when the Connecticut general statutes change, which they do every day,
Mhm.
it's already referenced in there, it doesn't need to be changed again, you know what I mean? Because it could get outdated very fast, so it's much easier in the, when it's specifically, the language is specifically referring to that state statute, to have the state statute there and not to try to summarize it yourself, because again, what John said, the statute's gonna stand, it's not gonna be our bylaws, so.
And if you wanted to quote, I mean, if you wanted to quote
Yeah.
the
I mean, if
statutes
you-
that we're referring to, that's what would be in there,
Right,
you know?
Right,
Mm.
but then it's in one place and we're not arguing about, oh, but the bylaws say this, but the statute says it this way,
Right.
but this,
Exactly.
there's no question to it, so.
That's why I just think it eliminates confusion.
Yeah,
Okay,
so the motion's on the table and seconded.
So the motion, say it again?
So the motion would be to eliminate under section 3 duties, numbers 2 through 7, and instead make number 2, the board shall comply with Connecticut general statutes and list the legal references currently listed in that section at the end of that section as they are,
2 through 7.
2 through 7.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Last chance, Chris.
John,
So-
you good with that?
I'm good with that,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so
Second.
take a motion, motion's been approved, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right, so number 8, we already took care of. 9 will stay, I think. 10, I think should probably stay, if anybody's got any.
Well, then we'll get in.
11, we already eliminated.
Can I ask one?
Hmm?
Why, I guess you guys didn't approve it last time, so I'm just curious.
Which one, I'm sorry?
11,
11, it's stated in a number of other spots, so.
not that it doesn't exist, it's just not, doesn't need to be there.
It
Yeah,
doesn't- no,
and it's not necessarily our duty, I think it talks more in our statement of integrity, or there's some other spots where it talks about that, so. And we didn't see that necessarily as a duty, more of a.
More of a guideline.
guideline, yeah.
Right.
And then I wrote for numbers 12 through 14 to move those to page 37, which is,
Actually,
No.
Chris, I wrote that down,
I
Jill
went over
suggested
that.
that one, the number 11.
Code of Ethics more so, which would be 36, I think.
Yeah.
What are you looking at,
A
number?
It's numbers, 9271. I wrote 37, but.
Wait, numbers 12, 13, and 14?
Yeah,
9271.
Or, let's see, which would be more,
Yeah, see, these are more instructional, not part of our duties.
right. And these would be definitely, I would think definitely bylaws,
But not necessarily listed under duties.
but not duties, correct. And so that's why I said move I wrote 37, but I think I meant 36.
9271.
9271
Yeah.
is the one, though,
Yeah, that would be in our,
Those are all duplicated in there too, right?
code of ethics. Well, it talks about school visitations, and maybe that doesn't necessarily go in ethics, but 13 and 14 would definitely go into ethics.
right?
And 37, I think, would go somewhere else. I mean, not 37, 12 would probably go somewhere else. And I know it talks about it somewhere else as well.
Yeah, it's, try to look at 9030A, let's see, I don't know.
Alright, so we're eliminating 8, leaving 9 and 10,
Hmm?
eliminating 11.
Which have already been done.
Right,
Yep.
we're on 12,
Hmm?
individual,
So 12 should go somewhere, but I'm not sure where, but 13 and 14 should go to the,
Code of
code,
ethics.
the code of ethics page.
so 13 and 14 move to 9271, right?
Right.
9271.
And for number 12,
You know what though, so, and then the other, so 13 says declare a conflict of interest when it arises and excuse from related discussion and action on that issue. But then 9270, which is page 35, has a conflict of interest. No member of the, and maybe that's what I meant, it should go into,
no, that's right,
should go into the conflict of interest page.
Sure,
right.
13 should go to the conflict of interest.
so 9270,
14 should go to the code of ethics.
move, that's 9271,
And then 12 should go somewhere,
I don't know where.
Yeah, but look at, I'm just looking at 9030A. I saw it somewhere in there.
9030,
Yeah, 9030A, let me see.
It's number 3, visits.
board
to-
staffs.
yeah, visits to schools.
Visits
Right,
to
yeah,
schools.
yeah.
Good job, thanks Teresa.
So that,
What number was
so,
that?
So 9030A,
B,
There's
A or B?
a number,
A,
yeah,
okay.
it's
A.
A.
number 3.
Number
Number
3
three.
is about visits to schools.
Mhm.
So 12 should go there, 13 should, and then.
So 12 should go to 9.
But is 12 already stated in visits to schools?
No, I don't think so.
I think it says exactly.
Oh, it does,
It's
it does, you're
exactly
right,
that.
so that we can eliminate it.
So,
Except that,
Except that that sentence is not finished in 9030A.
It's- We gotta take out that middle piece that just stuck it in there. I've
Oh,
gotta, that's a
okay.
format thing, I've gotta go back and do that.
yeah, it's continued on the next.
Yeah.
Except then it goes official visits by board members and then it ends right there.
So that should be,
I thought when we spoke about this before, we talked about the board members having a right to visit, and of course, they'd arrange that through the building administrator. We wanted to put some language in there, and I don't think we ever did, that those visits would not interfere with
Daily
daily
operation.
operation.
and that is in this
it's
section.
in this
here.
document, it's in this document here, we talked about it.
Number
Okay.
12.
Yeah.
Such
Principal with notification to superintendent's office so as not to interfere with daily operations.
But we're moving that to what, 9030.
9270?
No, 90.
938?
Yeah,
9030A.
9030A. Individuals, make arrangements for visitations through administrators of the various schools.
Mhm.
The visit shall be regarded as informal expressions of interest in school affairs and not as inspections or visits or for supervisory or administrative purposes. Official visits by board members, we should say, official visits by board members shall not interfere with daily operations.
And that says that somewhere, but I don't know.
Well, it didn't get finished, the
Okay.
sentence didn't get finished in
Okay.
9030A, so,
Okay.
The
so
original.
it does say it, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we get rid of number 12 and move it to 9030A, we just have to add shall not interfere with daily operations at the end.
In section 3.
Correct.
So we have the locations of these three where they're going?
Yep, so I'll move number 12, regarding visitation of schools by individual board members to section 9030A, number 3, which is already stated there, and to add shall not interfere with daily operations at the end of that paragraph. I will also, at the same time, motion to move number 13 to section 9270, the conflict of interest section, and to move number 14 to section 9271, which is the code of ethics.
Seconded by
I'll second.
Mr. Ford. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Hold on, give me a second.
Oops, sorry.
I just want, I'm comparing the two, not the number 13.
It's gonna be moved in entirety to
Okay.
that.
Yeah. No discussion. For me.
Good. No discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Roles of the board, and see again, this roles of the board, I know we had taken out a bunch of other stuff, like I had, so in, this is where it gets me. The trust of the public is essential to the Board of Ed, board members must work effectively, and,
I
nine,
got it.
9005A. So on the first sentence, we made a change to array, but the trust of the public is essential to the Board of Ed, board members must work effectively, and I wrote with the entire community as opposed to with others.
That was that number,
But I just mirrored that language.
the top, yeah,
So with the entire
So with-
community.
the entire. Okay.
And then I just had a question for the next set, a Board of Ed that operates in integrity will be more effective board. Integrity is first discerning what is right and what is wrong, second acting upon what you have discerned even at personal cost, and third saying openly that you are acting on your understanding. I mean, is that something we need to say? Or is
I don't
that-
think we need the integrity is,
Yeah.
I mean, I think a board of education that operates with integrity will be a more effective board is enough. We don't need to define integrity. I think the meaning has something different for everybody.
That's what I was gonna say, different people have different thoughts of integrity,
Correct.
and it might mean different things to different people.
So I think a board of education that operates with integrity will be a more effective board is true. However, integrity is discerning what is right and wrong, acting upon what you have discerned, even at a personal cost. I wouldn't go that far.
So, alright, so,
How does that fit into our ethics?
It really doesn't.
No?
The problem is, is that a Webster dictionary definition of integrity, or is that something somebody made up along the lines? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I have no idea.
I don't think we should be into defining words in here, you know what I mean? Because what I think is what I think the definition of blue is gonna be different than what you think the definition of blue is, and we know this.
We have
so.
different feelings on things.
Right, so, but we're entitled to our opinions, so I don't think we need to define it, but I think that each board needs to, for sure, operate with integrity.
Yeah.
I think that's, if we get into defining words, there's a lot of different words we can define, including, the color of the board table is brown, so.
And when you get into the conflict of interest with the ethics stuff, these, whether they're they, the intention is that they define what specific conflicts of interest are. So usually voting on something which personally benefits you financially or a member of your immediate family financially is a conflict of interest.
Not integrity.
Not integrity. So that's the type of thing that goes into the conflict of interest situation.
I'm gonna use you and I as an example. We're not gonna agree on everything. We don't agree on anything. We know that we don't agree on everything. But that is also part of the Board of Education. You know what I mean? There are different opinions and different representations of the community at large. And us saying that this is what integrity is not, it's not a conflict of interest because it's a definite, it's a definition. It's not, it's a subjective definition nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, the town has adopted a conflict of interest ordinance, the ethics
Commission.
Commission ordinance. It lays out what conflicts of interest are in there. And of course, the state has a conflict of interest statute. But the town's adoption doesn't affect the Board of Education because the town cannot adopt for the Board of Education.
No, we report to the state.
Right, exactly. But generally, the conflict of interest prohibits certain direct activities. Usually financial interest is one, personal interest is another, where you obtain some kind of a benefit to a personal interest of you or a member of the immediate family, where you use your position for some other kind of personal gain. Those are the types of things that are prohibited in the conflict of interest ordinances. Really doesn't talk about integrity or anything like that because people obviously have different opinions, different interpretations. They see things differently.
So I'm gonna move to eliminate, from integrity is first to the end of the statement there, specifically because Chris Cormier and I do not get everything in line with each other.
And if you could also add, work effectively together with the entire community to act in the best interest of the
In the first sentence, okay, so let's amend that motion then. So the motion to amend the statement of integrity to, change that first sentence, Teresa, to mirror
Second
the
sentence. It's a second sentence.
oh, okay, sorry, it's the second sentence to mirror the purpose of the Board of Ed and state and with the entire community, as opposed to and with others in the community, and then to eliminate the words integrity is first through the end of the statement.
Motion by Mr. Dell,
Second.
second by Mr. Flork, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right, so in the rest of the we will, I wrote number 3, 4, and 8 should go into duties, actually.
3, 4, and 8?
Yeah. Be responsible for becoming informed on any and all issues coming from the board. Seek to facilitate ongoing communication with the board, students, staff, parents, and elements of the community, which I think has already been stated. And then fairly assess all non-instructional aspects of school operations. Should be duties, I think.
Yeah, well, what about number 5?
Conduct our meetings in a fair, I mean, that's almost a statement of integrity or.
That's like a feel-good statement.
Yeah, and I don't know if we even need any of this section once we get to that.
No,
Well,
I
for
think that's.
example, you know.
But some of the stuff I have to switch it as we go on further, some other, so I think adding those couple things to duties fills in some of those spots.
I actually think I do agree that those should be moved to duties, but the rest of it, I do think that, with that statement that the Board of Education that operates with integrity will be a more effective board, goes into, this is how we're going to operate with integrity.
Mhm.
But I do think those 3 things are pretty concrete and should be added to duties.
Okay, so then I would make a motion to move items 3, 4, and 8 to the duties section on page 1, section 2, duties. Second,
Second,
any discussion?
I have a problem with moving 5,
not 5, 3, 4, and 8.
3, 4, and 8.
Yep. Before any-
That's what you mean, yeah, that's not a,
No, I think that's a feel-good statement.
that's not integrity, that's,
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And the other one I had is number 10, it's stated in other places, whether that goes into ethics, understand we have no authority beyond what is exercised at the board's meeting, and we shall not lend the impression we're speaking.
which replaces, that's your replace on number 11 in our policies. Keeping that, having that there, on number 10 replaces what we used to have as section 11 in 900B.
Yeah, we took it out
We took it out, so.
from there, so I think it needs to be under integrity.
Would that be an integrity statement?
I think so, yeah. I think that's an understanding of how we are to operate.
Okay, I didn't say remove it, just
No,
remove it, but
I
if-
think
Okay.
I think we should leave it there and take it out if it's anywhere else.
Okay, and then.
So it's not redundant in 37 places.
Okay, so one last thing we'll try to look at today, on page 4, so this is just a whole separate, the Stratford Ed is committed to the highest legal and ethical standards. I had wrote to move this to either a statement of integrity,
We have till 6:30.
so,
We have till 6:30.
I thought you said 6.
Well, that's the next meeting starts at 6:30, so. 6:30.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I thought we were done 6, okay. so we
Nope,
went through it.
6:30.
So move it into the statement of integrity, which is on the front page 905A,
Mhm.
and include that in that original statement of integrity.
Which one are you referring?
That last,
On
so.
the next page, 905A.
So the Stratford Board of Education is committed to the highest legal and ethical standards.
Page 4, it's alone.
This,
Yeah, I'm just looking at that there. Yeah.
Okay.
So I,
That's-
I say where in,
so just include it in the opening statement
on
of
A statement of
905A.
integrity.
So there's the trust of the public
So
is
take
essential
this
to the entire
and move it to
community,
the
blah, blah, blah.
beginning.
And then the Stratford Board of Ed is committed to the highest legal and ethical
the
standards.
beginning of 9005.
905.
And,
Yeah,
the-
I agree with that.
okay.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So I would, and it eliminates a whole other page, you know.
Well, that's still gonna, this
Depends
is
on-
just the second page of this,
Yeah.
so I think it's just gonna push the page down, but it should be in the statement. of
So
integrity, I think.
905A, the paragraph that start with, the Stratford Board of Ed is committed to the highest legal and ethical standards, will become part of the opening statement of 905A. And that would be my motion.
Second.
Any
Hold on,
discussion?
hold on, Ken. Do you wanna put it at the beginning of the statement of integrity, or I was seeing it as right after where we cut out the integrity?
Yeah, that would be,
Yes,
that would be
yes.
sentence
Adding it to,
2.
that would be this.
That,
Yes.
correct.
This becomes the replacement for integrity at the end of that
Correct.
paragraph.
Yes.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Authority of the Board of Ed, I didn't really have anything in here. I don't know if, John, if you had anything?
No, I didn't, but I think it should stay.
Okay, that's, I left that alone. Accountability, which is page 6, which we kind of,
We took a lot out
We
of it.
took a lot out of that.
and what I did is eliminate, the board is accountable for it. The only thing I said we keep, because everything else there is, kind of stated.
Statute.
But requesting the resources necessary to, on like the third
Yeah.
bullet point, requesting the resources to effectively complete the budget process and move that to duties.
Effectively complete.
I think that's an accountability, I think that's a,
But that's the only thing we have in accountability, so I think we should.
I think it is a duty, request the resources necessary.
so, Chris, just for background, the reason we eliminated the public is accounted for, the superintendent, the administration, is because this is the board's bylaws, not everybody else's, so we can't define what they're accountable for.
So the first one, being responsive to the community's desires and concern regarding quality and performance, it already talks about, that's already been stating.
Correct.
Carry out its mandate to plan, make policy, lead, identify goals and objectives, that's already been stated. The fourth one, evaluating the degree which the goals and objectives are accomplished. That's somewhere it talks about, or self-evaluation, which it talks about that, and selecting and evaluating the superintendent of schools who are ready.
That's already
It's already in
stated.
there,
That's
so
already there,
all of
that's
this
already
stuff is
there,
already
right.
defined in there.
So the only
What
one,
about the third, so the third one down, requesting
Yeah.
the resources, the one you're questioning?
Should be a duty.
I think it should be moved to duties
And then the whole section of accountability should be
and then
eliminated.
gone, yeah.
Because anything under duties is our accountability, that's our accountability list.
Yeah. And the way I worded the sentence, and if you guys wanna write it better, but requesting the resources to effectively complete the budget process.
Say more, Madam?
So requesting the resources necessary to effectively complete the budget
I
process.
don't like the word effectively.
Okay. To efficiently,
To. I know what you're trying to say, but I don't think effectively is the word.
or just even we take out effectively and just say requesting the resources necessary to complete the budget process.
Yeah.
So are you reading, are you defining the term resources as data or as, funds, money?
To effectively complete the budget, so the budget process to me is developing the process. So the resources would be the information you need.
The data, the
Yeah, the data,
information,
the
yes, yeah, I
information.
was reading it a different way. I
Yeah.
was-
So requesting, okay. I get
Or
what
if you
you're
wanna
saying,
say
let's change
request-
resources.
Yeah, I was
Requesting the
requesting
data.
resources that, as money, so that you had a duty to request the money necessary to
So
achieve the goal.
requesting the information.
Or the data,
Information and data necessary
to properly complete the budget.
to,
Or just to complete.
no,
the
to, we don't complete the budget process. We present our budget to the town and they complete it. So requesting the information and data necessary to,
Move the budget process.
to build and present the budget, which is how it's defined later.
So, but I think what we do is we request the data and information from
Right.
the administration.
Right.
Who provides us with that. Us completing the data process is to put the budget
Or
together,
your budget,
our budget, and vote on and approve it.
right.
And that's, to me, the budget process.
Yeah, I agree with that, because, yeah, I get it, the town is the one that's gonna make the final determination what funding the board.
The dollar amount.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's all they do.
Mhm.
You've completed your budget process, and then when it comes back to you, you have a refinement of that budget process, so.
Right, and we do it in collaboration with the administration, but we request the information.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the administration gives us.
Question
We can
is-
do anything we want with it
Is
as
the
a board.
budget process defined anywhere else in here other
No.
than?
I don't
It's not.
remember seeing it.
Yeah, not that I remember.
So then I think we need to
Not complicate it too much.
not complicate it, but we really need to be careful of the wording of that.
I mean, so we have to request the data and information.
So let's, requesting, all
Necessary.
right, wait a
to
second,
complete the
we're
budget
gonna strike all the other sections there,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah,
And this is just gonna get moved, so.
Right, so requesting the information and data Necessary.
To,
to,
Complete the budget process.
I'm good with just that, to complete the budget process.
okay.
And I think it goes without saying, but, it's, yeah. So the motion would be to eliminate one, bullet point 1, 2, 4, and 5, and amend the sentence to say, request the data and information necessary to complete the budget process.
Second,
That's
So
good.
we're eliminating or moving that?
moving it,
Moving
And,
it.
and that amended
Moving
sentence
to
would be
duties.
moved to duties. All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And in our duties, before we move on, I don't think it says anything about preparing a budget. Or it says, prepare and present to the town council the annual budget in accordance with state statute.
Right.
And then maybe change the numbers, but put as the new number 10 in duties, request the data necessary to complete the budget process.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So we've eliminated that accountability section because it's everywhere
Yes.
else.
Yep,
Okay.
so that whole section will be even
Removing,
changed.
removing the text from 9011A
To 9,000.
9000B, number 9. Correct.
So then 9012A, a lot of this stuff,
Just do,
um,
'cause-
I had moving to duties as well, but, so the Board of Ed shall have the authority to take action on all or advisable to meet its corresponding state statute, town charter, including but not limited, to annual established with the superintendent of schools, education priorities for the school district. I think that should be a duty.
John, I think this again is kind of a summary of 10-220, a lot of it.
A lot of it is, not all of it, a lot of it. 220 and,
Which we've already referenced under duties, and this is legal responsibilities. So do we wanna call that first section duties and legal responsibilities and leave it at that? And we'll do that.
well, some of
So
you already.
I think some of the things in here are like to annually establish, and I think that this should be called out, like to Chris's point earlier. It's, you know, kind of somewhat of a guideline for the, especially the new people. But to annually establish with the superintendent of schools educational priorities for the school district.
I mean, we can leave it in there as definition again, as long as it matches the state statute. I think we have to be very careful of that.
I agree.
Create, abolish, modify, and maintain such positions, school divisions, and classifications may be necessary for the efficient administration. And I don't know, I think we changed it, or for of the educational enterprise.
No, I don't think we changed that. I think, but that,
Or it's just emboldened, so.
yeah, I think it needs to be of the school district, not educational enterprise.
And then, so number 3.
So are we changing one, we change number 2 to school district?
Well, it's always been educational enterprise, this is the original copy here.
Okay.
We've got that
I
too.
don't
I
know
think
where
it
that
needs to be
came
the
from.
school district.
It's just emboldened, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just the way it's written.
Are we moving that? Are we gonna do everything at once? Is there-
So I'll just go through what I've got here, and then we can go back. So I had those, the first two going into duties, select hire superintendents, already stated,
You already
consider
stated, yeah.
adopt an annual budget's already been stated, to determine number of clarification duties and remuneration of employees. I don't know if that's within our purview.
No.
To establish policy for employment, promotion and dismissal, and I said same as duties.
That policy.
Well, that's,
Same-
in
did I
number
have-
5,
Let's go back to number 5.
Yeah.
wouldn't that be part of our input and decision-making when it comes to our contract negotiations, once it gets to
And
us
budget.
after? And budget. So that is I think that is our responsibility, as part of our, it always comes back to us.
But do we need to state that when we say we're considering and adopting an annual budget?
We do it. When we submit that budget, the details, we might not be that deep into the details when we're looking at, we are, but we're not, but what we're submitting is what they, what she and Pam have prepared as with the detail of the number of staff, what they're getting paid, and the cost of it.
So do we want to determine the number of classification duties, and I don't know what remuneration means, but of employees.
That means their
How they-
compensation.
How would they?
Do we want to say as determined in the budget process? And is that redundant? Because that's the only way, that we have.
I don't think we should say as determined by the budget process, because there have been times, and we may not have done it, but there have been times where things have come up regarding, you know, layoffs of teachers because the budget process has gone awry, or a budget hasn't, you know, there is no budget, or, you know, whatever it might be. So we can't say during the budget process, because then we don't have
So,
the
but,
ability to do that any other time.
but like duties, we have no say over the duties, the classification, we have no say over, the number we don't, because if the teacher's line item is, say, $1 million, they can add another teacher as long as it stays within that $1 million.
Correct.
So
You really don't.
we can't determine the number and the remuneration, you know, that's all contractual.
Once, and also, once the budget is done, they're tweaking whatever they need to do with those numbers to make sure that we are up and running day one.
Right.
So I don't think that's within our,
So it's-
I don't think that's within our lane.
But you do approve the collective bargaining agreement.
Correct.
So you are approving the remuneration of the employees as stated in the collective bargaining.
That's
agreement.
adding that, to.
But that also, the CBAs also discuss classification of duties. There was a change to classifications recently in one of the CBAs.
Okay.
So would we say to determine the classification, duties, and remuneration of employees through labor relations, labor negotiations?
No, I think to, maybe determine is not the word we're looking for, maybe if we change the word determine, take out determine the number and change it to something else. To,
Well, the num-
review and approve.
Review and approve.
review and approve classification, duties, and remuneration of employees.
But the only way we can do
Because
that,
we're not gonna be doing that hands-on, that's gonna be brought to us by the administration.
Yeah.
but I'd still say that this is not, outside of labor negotiations, this whole sentence, none of this is within our purview.
I also think that's wrong. I think the budget process is a big part of that.
Which part?
I mean,
I mean, we just did it with our
we just did it with,
our assistant superintendents.
so I think it not defining where and when, we can discuss that by saying with the collective bargaining agreement or with the budget process, we take out determining the number and say to review and approve classifications, duties, and remuneration of employees, and that just means whenever it's brought to us.
Whenever it's brought to you, whenever your duties make it imperative that you are
Right,
the ones to
that
approve.
we're the ones that have to have the
Right.
final approval of it, that's all.
But I just wouldn't want this to, like Chris was saying earlier, somebody new comes in and says, oh, I have the authority to determine or the classification. You know, I think that if we're gonna, we don't wanna mislead somebody into thinking they have powers that they don't.
And I think by the use of the word to determine, that does that, but I think if you use the words to
Review and approve.
review and approve, that's
Right.
not something that you're doing and initiating from you.
That
You are
insinuates that it's being brought to us.
Viewing and approving something that's brought to you.
So 6 would be to review.
Or if you wanna add at the
Five.
end of it, in accordance with, state law or something like that.
To review and approve duties in accordance with state statutes?
Classification, duties, and are we still classifying too?
Yeah,
Right.
we're taking the number out.
Because we moved, like, I'm just saying, going to the AP, the BAS positions, we added the positions and then we endorsed.
Right.
We didn't necessarily hire them because they're under you, since you're
But
sitting
we
here.
endorsed, yes.
But we endorsed it and
I
expressed our
think
support for
to
it.
review and approve classification, duties, and remuneration of employees in accordance with state law.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So for.
You got that, Teresa?
So for that.
We talk in circles.
Okay, so for that sentence, let's just handle that one sentence. So number 5, it would be a motion to review and approve classification, duty, or remuneration of employees in accordance with state law?
Yeah,
In
Yes.
accordance with state law. All right, there's a motion, is there a second?
second.
Second by Ms. Padel, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Okay.
So now we've moved 1 and 2 to duties,
Have we done that? Did we?
and we didn't motion to do it.
Okay. So we'll take a motion to move numbers 1 and 2 to duties
Revise the last words on number
and what would we want that to say?
School district
School district?
Instead of educational enterprise.
enterprise. I'm not really sure where
two.
that came
I don't know where that came from.
from. Very strange term.
And it's in an older version too, so.
It is.
in-
It's a very
not the old-
strange
yeah, so
term.
it's not something that slid in.
All right, so 1 and 2 would be to move to duties, and number 2 would be amend the word educational enterprise to school district. So.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dow, seconded by Mr. Fleur. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So numbers 3 and 4
You've
Are
already dealt
redundant.
with.
are dealt with, so we'd make a motion to strike number 3 and 4.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dow, second by Mr. Fleur. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 7.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Back to the first page, should we,
First page of,
of the entire document,
Yeah.
900A, our duties, should we retitle section 3? Because it's not just our general duties, it's also our legal.
duties and legal
Responsibilities.
responsibilities, duties and legal responsibilities. Yeah.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
if we're pulling things from there, that we're trying to tighten it up, we're not eliminating things.
Well, and we're referring to the general statutes in there, so sure.
So motion by
Absolutely.
Mr. Cormier to change page 1, section 3, duties, to duties and legal responsibilities? Yes. Mr. Cormier, seconded by Mr. Fleur. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Number 7.
Wait, we skipped number 6. We discussed employment.
Okay, sorry, just out of
So we're gonna eliminate that one.
Okay, how about 7?
Provide the appraisal of the.
Well, you only, evaluate the superintendent.
Right, but we do provide, we do approve
The T-ball
the
process,
review,
teacher
the teacher evaluation process.
It was just,
Yeah.
we take
Okay.
the state mandates and then the state board mandates and then we tweak them up. We don't eliminate what they require.
Correct.
So they
Right,
just,
okay.
we're just in the middle of a brand new one
Okay,
right now.
I get it, I understand.
Yeah, so I think we.
So is that done through the labor negotiations?
No, that, we just did. We did that as our, Heather brought it to us. There was a committee, Diana DiOrio ran it, about the new teacher evaluation process
Okay.
and that being rolled out to teachers this year. This year, or was it rolled out last year?
Okay.
Last year, okay.
Okay, so that one will stay?
Yeah,
They've seen it. They
They've
saw
seen
it at the end of the year,
Right.
what they were coming into.
and we approved it,
Because
I
they had
think in June.
the same T-ball process, I think was probably 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
And it was very
Antiquated.
So then so 6, to establish policy for employment, promotion, dismissal of personnel in accordance with state, is that our duty or is that an administrative policy?
No, I think that's our, that we establish the policy. That's our job to establish the policy, so we leave that one.
Okay, so those 2 stay.
So 6 and 7 stay.
And then, so maybe we should even, when we're done, move this over to this whole section,
Duties.
To the first section.
To the first, yeah.
I mean, most of what we're doing is being moved over there anyway.
yeah. So I have,
Well, yeah, and we're calling that section now duties and legal responsibilities, so
So
let's.
Right now, we're
It's-
just,
it's-
we're also cutting out what's redundant.
Right,
yeah,
so let's.
so it's gonna be a long
We're still hitting.
section.
Yeah,
but
we're
we
still
can-
but we're still hitting the points we.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's gonna be a long session, but it's all gonna be coalesced into
Yes,
one
into
session.
one
Right.
section, yes.
So
So
to
at the
initiate-
end of this, we're gonna eliminate 9012A.
Right,
because
Correct.
Everything within here is getting moved. So 6, 5, and 6 would need to be,
to move to duties,
okay, so,
duties and legal
okay.
responsibilities.
so then to initiate and approve the acquisition, disposition of school sites and initiate and approve plans for school buildings, I have that under duties.
Sure.
To consider any specific recommendations by the superintendent of schools. I don't,
I think that's too generic, I think we can eliminate that.
well,
You guys just rewrote that, hold on.
What?
The how, you guys just now, this meeting, you guys just changing how we respond to the superintendent.
but so that goes beyond just policy. any specific recommendations made by the superintendent. I'm not opposed to leaving that in as a duty.
I mean, we're obviously, I mean, that's our job, to take
Yeah.
the recommendations of the superintendent.
But it makes it clear to say somebody new who says, no, the superintendent's gonna make recommendations to you across the board.
Right.
About a wide variety of things.
I don't think that's a legal
Including
responsibility.
policy. Well,
To consider, it's a duty, not necessarily, legal, it's.
Right.
it's-
It's a duty.
Hmm.
But
It's
so
not
it fits in
necessarily
that section,
a
but-
responsibility, but it is a duty.
Okay, we'll just do
It's not being told what to do by the superintendent, it's taken there.
No, I'm saying that's, you know, that's what our job is, we do that anyway, so we're moving that to duties.
Yep, and also, we got that, and then I crossed off to keep citizenry involved, the purposes, values, conditions, and needs of the public education. I think that's covered in a number of other spots, and just,
I think it is covered in duties too.
But I think it is already
Yeah.
covered in duties.
so we
Strike that.
strike number 10, so just quick motion to strike number 10.
So-
Hold on.
Oops.
I wanna make sure I'm comfortable where we're actually saying that. That's our job, so.
Yeah, I think there's sections,
There's further sections.
on it. It's part of our integrity statement. It's part of.
It's part of the public advocacy.
To work with the entire community
There it is,
effectively.
seek to facilitate ongoing communication, number 4 and 9005A. Number 4, seek to, we already moved it to duties.
Okay.
So yeah, there it is, seek to facilitate ongoing communication between the board and students, staff, parents, and all elementary elements of the community. So, yeah.
Strike it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
the motion
already-
is
it's there.
strike number 10,
So moved.
moved by Ms. Padel, seconded by Ms. Ford. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. So 11 and 12 I have as duties
Duties.
as well.
Hold on.
They're just moving to duties.
So we'll get a motion to move all of these.
Hold on, we got more.
Yep, and then the back page, the next page, I had 9012B, legal references. Each,
Those are definitions again, and duties of the Board of Education, we've already referenced that in under duties.
Hmm.
Which one are you referring to?
Number 13 and 14 under 9012,
There's a specific statute that talks about.
53A-65.
See, I have it here somewhere. Now, what I'm referring to is 10-4A, educational interests of the state identified.
Do we have that defined under duties already?
I don't think so.
10-4A?
Yeah.
So then let's add it to that
So
list.
I'm just looking at the language here. So the educational interests of the state shall include, but not be limited to, the concern of the state that each child shall have for the period prescribed an equal opportunity to receive suitable program of educational experiences.
That's word for word.
But so,
Each
just
school, what?
before you go on, I think these are all in our policies already and not necessarily a bylaw.
I think if we do under the duties and legal responsibilities, if we add 10-4A under
Right,
that
I
list.
think you can say that, you know, this language appears to be a verbatim of what's already in 10-4A. So I think if you just add 10-4A to the other statutes that we have already
Under the duties and
enumerated,
responsibilities
right,
list.
I think
But, well,
that'll.
letter A, that works for letter for A. So-
Works for,
A, but not B, but that's not part of policy. The school district requesting funding is not.
No, that's part of the legal definition.
From in section
10-4A.
10-4A
Right, I
of the
sorry,
statute.
what I was,
Right.
but if we're, are we leaving it as is? Are we breaking it?
I would, in my opinion, this is just a a
We're-
repeat of the state statute?
We're
so-
eliminating it and adding that state statute to this list.
The reference.
That legal reference list that's in duties and legal responsibilities.
But it would just be a reference.
Right.
So we would eliminate, and I'm guessing defined by law would be number 13 because it goes from 12 to 14.
Correct, it is.
So it would be
It's
number,
formatted, yeah.
eliminating numbers 13 and 14 and adding a reference to 10-4A.
To make reasonable visitors to implement educational interests of the state as defined by law, as indicated in general statute, or is it the 10-4A?
Connecticut General Statutes 10-4A.
I also think that we need to add to that legal reference list 53A-65, the definitions.
But that's already in our policy, our big policy book, those are our school, all this is in our policy book.
Right.
We have, both in the administrative policies, which we're working on, well, this staff is working on putting together, and in our own, Board of Ed policies, I think all of this is contained within there.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I think that for instance, it is, since that first section is now defined as duties and legal responsibilities, these are legal responsibilities of the board, but I think you don't have to set them all out, you can just add 10-4A, because this language is in here, 9012, is verbatim from what is in Connecticut General Statutes 10-4A.
Right.
And we don't wanna get into.
Does that statute go, is that just A, B, C, and D, or does it go to item 14 in our current?
No, I don't think it goes to item 14.
But I don't wanna get
No,
into
like,
us
item
including
14.
all the state statutes in our bylaws. And again, the
Item-
purposes of the bylaws is how we
Yeah.
govern with the
But
board.
these are
that's
specific
part of the
duties, you've got a
definitions that
duties
were
and legal
added to that
responsibilities.
list.
Okay, so it's moving to,
To duties and responsibilities.
I'm fine.
So that's why I think.
But it is already stated in our
If you can get that
policy.
safe.
Yeah, well, we don't have those here.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because those things
I
change,
meant
like
for, I
the.
meant for Teresa.
She's
Because
got it.
There's a lot of
Believe
changes
me,
just
she's
happening
got
here.
it.
To create our policies,
Right, right.
We're
Do you wanna
simplifying it.
reference the policies as well, like under your legal?
Let's do that at the end. Let's do that at the end. We could reference policies as well as bylaws,
You could,
yeah,
What do you guys have at 6:30?
personally.
personnel. So we're,
6:30.
once we get through this a little bit,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Chris,
just finish up with this one.
14 is not in that statute, not in.
Yeah, so 14 can go to legal, duties and legal responsibilities, and it's a nice wrap-up.
Yeah.
As a
That-
as a last
that-
one.
That's,
Yeah.
actually, these are not in 10-4A, but they are referenced in,
53A-65,
or 10-20.
10-220.
all right, so we'll hang on to that for 1 second. So we're gonna make a motion to move 6, 8, 9, 11, and 12 to duties.
Correct.
So a motion. by
Duties
Mr.
and
Dowd.
legal
And legal
responsibilities.
responsibilities.
6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12.
Yes. 7, the appraisal and performance of personnel, did we include that?
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12.
To move
We'll
to duties.
Move to duties and legal responsibilities. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So now, how are we gonna wrap this 13 and 14 up?
I would eliminate
13.
13 and put in duties and legal responsibilities, just the reference to section 10-4A of the Connecticut General Statute.
And to move number 14
Right.
to the end of the section of duties and legal responsibilities.
Even though
To wrap
14
up.
is a, okay.
Another
You guys wanna leave that in
statute,
there?
but it looks, I think it's a nice wrap-up to our responsibilities.
Okay, okay.
We'll put it under duties.
So
Safe
thir-
setting, we're done.
So 13, John Flork is making a motion to delete 13 and make a reference to,
10-4A.
Section 10-4A of the Connecticut General Statutes.
motion by Mr. Flork, second
Second.
by Mr. Bell, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. And number 14, Mr. Cormier?
I motion to move item 14 and 9012B to maintain safe school setting and shall, in accordance with statutes, maintain, I don't have my glasses on, so. Maintain records of allegations,
It's number
investigations,
14.
reports.
Yeah.
Number 14, moving it to duties and legal responsibilities.
To be the tail end of
Yeah,
the
as
section?
the last item.
Be the tail end of that section.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cormier, seconded by Mr. Dell. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, so we're on page
Section
10.
9020.
9020,
Right.
pick up here.
Mhm.
I wanna maybe schedule a meeting before the 1 month period,
Mhm.
just so we can kind of bang through some of this stuff while it's fresh. So
Mhm.
I'll just check with everybody, but we'll come back, pick up 9020. And Teresa, before you go, typing and printing all this stuff, let us get through some more of it. And then you can just give us a whole consolidated, so you don't have to retype it 20 times.
No problem.
We're not going back to those first.
No, but we might add stuff in as we go through, or there might be some changes, but
Yeah,
instead
move
of
this
her,
to that.
instead of her typing this whole thing up
Yeah.
and giving us another 60-page document,
Right.
let's get through it, and then once we get the red line completed, then we'll go through it one more time, just to fine tune it, and then we can.
Absolutely.
Let me point out something as you go along in looking at these things that I think you should consider. At various, in various bylaws where action has to be taken, there's stated the standards of that action. In other words, what I'm saying is in some places it says, majority of the members of the Board of Education. In other places, it says, majority of the members of the Board of Education present at the meeting,
Mhm.
okay? Now, they're different, okay? It's like you may remember from the council, there's 10 council people. I don't care whether you have a quorum or not, it's still, you need 6 votes to pass an ordinance or a resolution.
Mhm.
Because the language is members of the council, okay? Not members present and active.
Right.
Now, I don't know how those differences began, or whether there was a reason for them. But when you go through them and you look at them, I think you should look at it with the idea, with the notion is, should we change everything to be consistent? Or are some things so more important than others that those actions require a majority of the full board as opposed to a majority of the,
I think
A majority of the body
consistency.
as opposed to a majority of the
Correct.
president.
I think
Exactly.
consistency is better.
but just think about it as you go through it. You're gonna
Where
see the differences.
Yeah.
Chris, where you're going, I'm asking, are you saying consistency, but as a majority?
I think
of members?
I think
Or was
either
it-
way we decide, whether we go with the majority present or the majority, either way we decide, we should be consistent throughout everything.
I think there should be certain,
I'm not
like an
gonna tell
ordinance,
you.
and an ordinance requires 6, but a resolution
No, that
only
requires 6.
Yeah.
Everything on the
Everything on the
council
council
level
requires
requires
6.
6. Everything. Yeah.
Mhm. So if there's only 7 present,
Yeah.
it still requires 6.
Still requires 6
We used
votes.
to do- oh, I could be wrong. I always thought we had
I just-
some of the things, but like an ordinance, like a bonding, their ordinances require 7.
There are some ordinances that require a supermajority,
Yeah.
correct,
Yeah.
7.
So there's
But that's defined specifically. I
Right.
think that if we're gonna start with something, we need to
Yeah.
have it clearly
Yeah.
and consistently defined, whether it be one way or the other, I don't care
Yeah,
about that,
but
but.
there may have been a reason that it started that way.
Well, that would be a good thing to look at as we finalize.
As you
this.
go through this
Yeah.
thing, and you'll see different bylaws state the requirements for action by the Board of Education. That's where you'll see it. Majority of the members of the board or majority of those present and voting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
They're two different things.
That's, all right, we'll take that up, but that's a good, that's a good, so, but let's let you guys get, because you got the
Yeah.
personnel, so
Sorry.
take a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those passed unanimously. No, that's definitely, yeah.
Yeah, just, as you go through it, just keep
no,
that in mind.
it's definitely, it just needs to be consistent, that's, whether it goes one way or the other, it
You
just
also
needs
want